So this video should be kept relatively short. We're just finishing the quadratic formula. In case you've forgotten, or if you haven't memorized yet, it is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So as we're looking at this, I know this problem doesn't have much context, but if you read exercise 6 in the book, it's basically, I think it's a college quad, where going diagonally through the quad, walking through the grass is only 15, yards, meters. And what they know for the other side lengths is just walking along those side lengths is x and x plus 3. So it's just asking you how many feet can a walker save by cutting through the grass. Well, first of all, you have to figure out how long x is in order to do this. So that's through the use of the Pythagorean theorem. X squared plus the other side length, which is x plus 3 squared, must be equal to 15 squared. So as we simplify that, don't forget to FOIL x plus 3 times x plus 3. So it is x squared plus 6x, 3x plus 3x, plus 9, and 15 squared is equal to 225. And if you're going to use the quadratic formula, you need to make sure you set that equation equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 225 over. That would be negative 216. And we have 2x squared plus 6x. And now we can do the quadratic formula using that a is 2, b is 6, and c is negative 216. And because we're asking for a numerical value, I would be fine at this point you leaving your answers rounded. So what that means is when you go to your calculator, you can just make a fraction. I can make a fraction by hitting alpha x. Some other people you can hit alpha y equals and grab a fraction. But then you can actually type in x equals negative 6. Plus or minus, so I'm going to do plus first because your calculator can only do one at a time. 6 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a, so 2 times 2, and that gave me an answer of exactly 9. Look at that. You might want to double check that you might get another possible answer if you change that plus to a minus. But it's impossible to get a negative distance for an x. So what that told me is that this length is 9. That means total 9 plus 3 is a length of 12. So if I were to walk through, it's 15, diagonally through, whereas if I walk along a sidewalk, 9 plus 12 would be 21. So if you stay on the sidewalk, I guess I'll write this out, is a length of 21, 9 this way, 12 this way. I'm going to assume yards, but diagonally is 15, so how much can you save? We'll subtract 15 off, and 6. Now, if I were a better teacher, I would say, make sure you give the units, but since I didn't provide any units, you can just leave it as 6. I think I messed up on this next problem, but that's okay. I think the directions are off just a little bit. Usually, if we're shot upward from the top of a building, this number should match up with this number. So maybe I should change this. Oh, and this velocity should match up with this velocity. So I must have messed up somewhere. But anyway, let's just assume for a second that we're going to look at this equation and ignore the directions. I think I messed up on these directions. So anyway, when I'm asking you when the object hits the ground, basically what that boils down to is it starts up here, goes up, and comes back. I'm asking you what this distance is. Or actually what I'm asking for is the time that it hits this. So all I need to do is recognize that when I use the quadratic formula, I'm going to get a positive value for t instead of x because my independent variable is t. And I'm going to ignore the negative answer because I don't really care I don't care what this value would have been. So as I go through my options, and by the way, this is still true that A equals 0, or sorry, H equals 0, because that's the height of the ground. So as I work through this, my A value will be negative 16, my B value will be 12, and my C value would be 200. And as you work through the homework, which is already written right here, what you'll notice is that these numbers should match up with, 200 feet high should be there, and 12 feet per second should be that number. But anyway, so let's go to a calculator. X equals negative B. Double checking. Yep. Plus or minus. Oops, I forgot to make this into a fraction. There we go. I don't like that. The square root of B squared minus 4 times A, I believe it was negative 16, times C, all over 2 times A. Now, as I do this, notice I got a negative answer. Well, the reason why I got a negative answer, even though I added right here, is I ended up dividing by negative 32. All right, not a big deal. Just go back, grab that equation, and change that plus to a minus. And it tells me it would have been about 3.930. I believe this is in seconds. Feet per second, so yeah. There we go. So I think you have enough information to be ready to be successful. Notice I'm assigning the odds. I want you to check your answers. But if the back of the book rounds answers, make sure you also practice simplest radical form. So that's it for this. And please write down any questions you may have. Email me. Bring your questions to class. I want to help you.